The first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
Welcome back to another episode of The Grip Show. So I've had Zach Staniewicz on before as the host of the Greenville Grab. That was July last year.
Yep.
And you're going to be hosting another Greenville Grab coming up here this year as well.
Yep, July 19th in Malden, South Carolina.
Okay, so if anybody is aware, and I'd have to double check. I don't know the events off the top of my head, but are you dual sanctioning that?
Dual sanction. Yep,
Okay.
Arm Lifting USA. We have the 2x5 Saxon, and GSI is going to be the Southeast Regionals. We're going to be doing the 20 millimeter grippers. The SSE Anvil, which isn't sanctioned yet, but we'll see. And then we're doing the inch dumbbell farmer's walk.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool event lineup. So you got grippers, you got a Saxon, anvil lift, and then bringing the inch dumbbells back, but instead of an inch dumbbell rep out, you got a farmer's walk going this year. So
Yep.
Definitely a cool lineup. I did the last one, I liked it. So yeah, hopefully this one will run better than the last one. Even like I said, last one went pretty much perfect to me, but you guys will probably improve and even get better numbers and make it bigger this year. So best of luck for that. Moving on though, I'm going to get into just kind of you in general for your training. We just mentioned you hosting that. We have some other things we're going to get into with some of the products you're kind of bringing forward. But first, I want to kind of talk to you about your athletic journey in general and kind of how you got started in strength training and what kind of led you to grip, where maybe we can find you nowadays.
Yeah. So for me, my first love was baseball. I mean, ever since I was about 5, that was my sport. And I played till I was about 33 competitively. Anyway, so I was in high school and I was in the gym, and one of our baseball coaches was working out, and he's like, "Hey, Staniewicz, come check this out." And they had one of them universal gym units, and it had like a wrist roller. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's got like a wing nut, and it uses friction. So anyway, you start twisting it, and he's like, "Man, if I were you, I'd probably get in the habit of using this, once, twice a week, for hitting and stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." So those are some of my first memories. I was probably in 9th grade. And anyway, so he talked about the importance of it, and he's like, "Oh, look at Jeff Bagwell, or some of these guys, obviously they use some a little extra sauce for some forearm work, but that's kind of how it got started." And then I was probably in like my sophomore or junior year, and then that's where I looked up like Ironmind, right? Those were the guys, and that's where I first got introduced to a lot of the stuff, with the grippers and all their different products and stuff, and went down that rabbit hole pretty big. And I think probably my junior year, I ordered like a number 1, number 2, number 3. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started. I mean,
yeah,
the 2 was a brick, you know what I mean? Like here I am. It's like, this should be easy, right? The store-bought grippers, those suckers, you can crank out like 30, 40 reps. So that was pretty humbling. But yeah, I guess that's how I got into the sport, I guess.
Okay. A lot of people have grippers as kind of their gateway too. I don't know, for some reason it's like the easiest to order, or it's kind of the most common, like visually, like, okay, it's not like you can walk in most sports stores and probably find some kind of gripper. You're not necessarily looking at rolling handles or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
More specialty equipment. But yeah, so around that high school time, getting your hands on some grippers, doing some forearm work, some strength training for baseball. I'm sure you're probably doing regular compound lifts or something. I mean, to some extent, you're probably doing regular, I don't know what other kind of training were you doing outside of that, I guess, to kind of get ready? Because when you're at that level, you're doing something.
Yeah. So I was doing the regular lifts. I was doing light squats and light deadlifts, and just messing around, lifting weights, and not a real strict program. Just getting some work in, trying to stay strong. And and getting a lot of work on the field. But yeah, so I would, you know what I mean? Like I would mess around with it, but it wasn't like my sport. You know what I mean? I would just kind of
Yeah.
casually do it. It wasn't like, oh, I got to close this three, in the next year or something. And it was very rudimentary because there's not a lot of information like we have today. There's these huge gaps. It's kind of daunting and humbling and pretty. Yeah, it's tough to make that jump from the 2 to 3. So you kind of get you lose interest sometimes and you just put it away and go back to it, unlike today where you got these small jumps and stuff. So, yeah, so I just mess around with it. And throughout my career, it's not like it's going to, turn my, 300 or, 200 batting average to 300. It's going to help a little bit, just have be generally strong. But, just kind of mess around with it here and there. And I always had an interest, watching guys like, you've talked about it, like Jed. He was doing that stuff back in the day. He was one of the first guys that I ran into, and then obviously what Richard did, and and then you got John Brookfield, bought his books probably in high school. I think was it Mastery of Hand Strength? I think that was the first edition.
That's one of them. Yeah, I think that was like the blueprint or something for hand strength or something. Yep. But there's like two of them. I think I have Mastery of Hand Strength, but I don't know that I've read the other one.
Yeah. That was a big part of it, ordering that, just seeing like, oh my gosh, looking at all these different things, blobs. And I want to say in high school, I grew up in New York and we were driving down south and I was like, hey mom, can we detour through York, PA? She's like, yeah, why? What's in PA, York, PA? It's like, oh, there's this place, it's York Barbell. And at this time, I forget what year it was. Maybe it was in high school or college, and they just came out with their legacy blobs, right? Mm-hmm. Not the USA, but they just came out with them. So anyway, I stopped at York, PA, and I ordered a couple blobs and picked them up there. Save on shipping. So that was pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Now, were these blobs or dumbbells? I'm just messing.
These are dumbbells. Oh yeah.
I'm just messing with you because some of these people some of the hardcores might freak out and be like, oh, you're cutting them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They were plentiful at the time. It wasn't like I was there. They weren't vintage. If you wanted a dumbbell, you can go get one. But that was something that was pretty cool. Getting it straight from the OGs there. But I had a couple cool little experiences. I think one time I talked to Warren Tedding. Because they were selling them at Weightlifters Warehouse out in California, and Warren was making the grippers. So it's pretty cool talking to Warren, the guy, one of the OGs, and just hearing about his training. And he had some good tips for me, in terms of basic training, just like powerlifting, treat it like a power lift when training with him. That was pretty cool. Trying to think some other cool experiences.
I say before you get too crazy on the grip side, or before we get too deep, because that's where we're going to mainly be. Yeah. Do you have any pretty cool stories from your baseball? Or do you want to go into any detail about baseball, kind of how that journey went, ended, whatever, and then maybe get into like a story or two about the baseball side of things, and then we can kind of go harder on the grip stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so like you said, baseball was my passion since I was about 5. So I grew up in New York, right? And we're playing the Red Sox, Yankees, Red Sox. And there's this dude on the mound, and he's throwing like slow, like 60. I'm like, what the heck's this? Anyway, I was with my brother. Maybe we were watching the Red Sox Yankees. Oh, it's Tim Wakefield. He's a knuckleball guy. He goes, what? And he's like, what is that? And he's like, oh, the ball doesn't spin; it moves around. And I was like, what? So anyway. And then, I don't know, maybe the next day or so, I asked my coach, I was like, hey, Tim Wakefield? I was probably like 7, 8, right? He's like, oh, yeah. And, he showed me like a grip, how he gripped it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he started firing them at me. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. So anyway, so I messed around with it on the sidelines. And, I don't know how many guys here, play baseball, but the knuckleball is very rare. It's not a common pitch. It's very difficult to throw. In the history of Major League Baseball, there's been like, I don't know, 20 committed throwers that threw it a lot. So anyway, I messed around with it on the sidelines. I went through high school just throwing fastballs. I was like 84, 85, very, very average with a decent changeup. My last high school game, we had a guy from a local college, Concordia College. He watched me pitch, and he's like, "Hey man, you'd be interested in coming to Concordia in the fall?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I ended up going to Concordia College, small D2 school. So during this time in high school, I was just pitching, hitting. I went to Concordia, pitched 4 years there. Had an average college career. Had some highs, had some lows, and then played 2 years of independent ball, just like low levels. This is not affiliated ball. They're not affiliated with any major league club. It's like $800 a month, paying for your room and board, eating rice and beans, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, chasing a dream, just having an opportunity.
Yeah.
Throwing 86, 87 with a decent changeup, not going anywhere. So I did it for 2 years, riding bus, 10 hours. It's tough, And then fast forward, I go in the Guard or the Air National Guard or Air Force Reserves. Did that for a year. And then I always kind of mess around with the knuckleball. So my buddy calls me up. I'm doing training for a year up in Fayetteville, North Carolina at Pope Air Force Base. And my buddy's like, "Hey, Staniewicz, you got a pretty good knuckleball. You should come work out with me and Phil Necro." Now, Phil Necro is the guy. He's the godfather of the knuckleball. He's like the Michael Jordan of the knuckleball. He's the best. So, and he's a Hall of Famer. So I'm like, "Yeah, I'll see you in 2 weeks." He gave me like 2 weeks heads up. So I go down there, I throw for Phil. And at the time, I thought I was done with baseball. And I'm like 25, which is old. It's old to try to get back into baseball. So I'm like, all right. So I go throw for him, and Phil's like, "Hey, you got a good knuckleball, and you should probably go do this." So it's almost like a flip of the switch. So like at the time, previously, I messed around with a pitch, but I was never confident enough to throw in the game. No one knew how to coach it. Coaches were just like, "Stop throwing it," because it's tough to learn. So then I ended up throwing for him. He gave me the green light, and then I played on a military team the following summer, met the GM of the Orioles, Dan Duquette, and then I got signed when I was 26 in 2013. Played rookie ball through like a high 3 ERA, went through winter ball in Australia, threw really well. And then I played another like 7 years of independent ball, very sporadic. Had some real highs, had some real lows. If you know anything about the knuckleball, it's very difficult to throw. Walked a lot of guys. I think I got the HBP hit by pitch record in Can-Am League. I think I hit like 7 guys in a game. You don't get away with that throwing fastballs, but they understood. They're like, the guy's just taking 65 in the elbow, and they're just like, "All right, dude, I'm going to first." And so yeah, it was I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I had a lot of really met a lot of really cool people, played a lot of different places. I was able to follow my dream out, but I just wasn't good enough, Zach. I mean, I had the stuff, I just couldn't repeat it in the game. Just like any professional athlete in minor leagues, they have a couple good gifts. It comes down to consistency, and I wasn't consistent enough, so I didn't make it, dude. But very grateful for the opportunity, and feel very privileged to be able to play as long as I did. I think I played till I was 32, which is generally pretty old. But with that pitch, they pitched till they're 50. Like Hoyt Wilhelm. Yeah. He's a Hall of Famer. He pitched till he's 50 and threw really well. So that's what kind of kept me going. And yeah, man. I'm always, I watch guys, some of the up and coming pitchers, and but yeah, it's a big passion of mine, and I always try to help kids out, when I can. And yeah, but that's kind of what I did obsessed with from 12 to 32. That was my goal. My goal was to pitch in the big leagues, and I chased it down, turned every stone over. And when I got done with that, I knew I needed something. You know what I mean? I wanted to compete, and that's when I dusted off the grippers, and I was like, and then I saw what Jed was doing and arm lifting and all that stuff. I was like, dude, let's get into this. This is pretty cool.
So around that time frame, what year would that have been? Probably, I
Probably
guess.
18, 19.
Okay,
My
so
last years.
maybe Arm Lifting USA was just becoming an organization,
Yep.
but you're probably catching a lot of the. I don't know. I hate to use the word like golden era of grip, but like you're probably coming off the tail end of like, okay, like people like Andrew Durniat and obviously Jed. You're getting a lot of those like names that maybe aren't quite around these days, but
Yeah.
a lot of us people that are still competing are sort of looking up to them or following, their lead. So yeah, so that's a pretty good era to sort of
All
transition over
into
to the sport. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you
Oh,
got the guys like I mentioned. I mean, there's just so many people from the Jeds, Adams, Chad Woodall,
oh yeah.
Dernier. You have that kind of those people kind of at least making the sport interesting for you to want to pursue it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so from there, you dust off the grippers. You start kind of thinking about maybe competing, or I don't even know if you're thinking about competing, but you're training at least.
Yep.
And were you on Gripboard, aware of Gripboard? Where were you getting most of your information, and how were you kind of following things?
So I think I signed up on the grip board in '03.
Oh
So
man, so a long time ago.
yeah, I was lurking. I was watching, checking. Not a big poster, I was just
Mhm.
taking this information in, getting the Iron Mind magazines all this time, checking it out. But it's like I could, I couldn't commit to it. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of training to do some of these feats, and it just wasn't worth it at the time. So then, yeah, 19, I don't know. I bought some. I think I bought a pro dumbbell from Fat Bastard. Try to start working on the inch.
Mhm.
Bought a crusher. I made a Saxon bar. I made not a 3x4, but a 3x6. I welded up a Saxon bar, a 2x4 Saxon bar. But these aren't regulations. I was just like,
Yeah, you're just creating your own stuff at the time.
yep, yep. So I welded some of that stuff up, and I'm just in the background, just taking information in and training. Doing like a starting strength program. 3 sets of 5, back squat, bench, deadlift, that kind of stuff. Built a home gym, and then started putting stuff in the home gym. So it's you're not gonna find this commercial gym, and just training, training.
Mhm.
And then let's see. So my first competition was with you.
Okay, I wasn't sure that was the first time you competed or not, but yeah, we both pretty much kind of competed around the same time. But you
Yep.
obviously had been much more in tune and following the sport way longer than I had at the
Yeah.
time. But yeah, I remember that. It was like 2021 probably
Yep.
or so.
And there were some beasts in the room. So
No, yeah,
I
there's some
show
monsters
up.
there.
Juji's running the show. He's a big dude. And then you got David LaBay. I think you got Tom McClure.
McClure. Yep, Tom McClure was there.
You were there. Fuller was there. There's some
No,
big
yeah.
dudes.
Jake Fuller was there that time too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I show up. I talked to my girlfriend at the time, not my wife, Alexis, and I was like, hey, thinking about going up to Charlotte to compete. And they're like, oh yeah, what are you competing in? And she's like, oh, we're lifting up those axle bars. She's just like, all right, let's go. Anyway, so we both went up there, and it was a great experience, man, because well, yeah, you were there. Now we were both new to the sport, and
Yeah. That was my second. That's my second competition.
yeah, second one. But it was yeah, it was cool because yeah, we literally sat right next to each other, and I'm just like,
They had people paired up by alphabetical order. I don't know if
did
you
they?
remember that. They had people paired up. Now that's not necessarily why we sat next to each other,
Yeah.
but that was just kind of by chance. But like,
Coincidence, yeah.
usually it's kind of like, oh, we're gonna go by kind of like the strength order. Like, okay, it's rising bar, right?
Yeah,
Normally you're just like, okay, like who wants this weight? It
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
up. Who wants this weight? They were almost running it in these like weird flights, and it was almost by name. So
yep,
they would literally have like, hey, load this stack up to like 236 for Dave's second attempt. Okay, strip 3 plates off for random person who weighs
Yeah.
120 pounds next. So it was everything was like by name almost is how they did
Yeah.
it. So all the weight the plate loaders that day were doing triple the work
Yeah.
that anybody should ever have to do.
Yeah.
But we kept following each other, I think,
Yeah.
because I don't know if they were going by first names but I felt like we kept following each other because it was like Z and Z, and we are both
Yeah.
Zachs. So,
Yeah.
but we ended up sitting next to each other, and I had done a lot of research, obviously, kind of like you had, and
Yeah.
we were both new, but also kind of informed, and we were kind of just batting some ideas back and forth, or
Yep.
hey, maybe on this lift, do that. But you out the gate, you were stronger than I was for sure. You outlifted me that day.
Yeah.
And I could tell, like, man, this dude's strong. I don't know if I should be giving him advice.
Yeah, dude. It was great, man. Like, yeah, I was like, hey man, what do you think? What do you think? 10-pound jump? And you're just like,
That
I
looked
think so.
easy. Do it.
It was helpful. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Just getting that reassurance and stuff. It was great, man. Because yeah, I got to chat with you and Fuller and made some really good connections there, man. And it was awesome, dude. Everyone was super cool. It's not like we're not battling out, for money or whatever. Like, oh, I'm not giving you tips. It's just like it was a great environment. Everyone was there to help each other out. And yeah, I kind of got bit by the bug, dude. Now, you know what I mean? I was like, this is awesome. And then I kept training, you know what I mean? It was a
Mhm.
motivator.
Yeah, I that's when I really, is that my second competition, but like I had only done like one little mini competition before then. It was literally like 3 weeks prior. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like I, competed, took 3 years off or something. It was like that was pretty much my beginning.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but I remembered you from that competition, and I think we loosely stayed in touch for a couple years, on and off for different things or
Yeah.
whatever it was. And there's several things we could kind of circle back to. Like I
Yeah.
know, um, had a dumbbell order from Nathan Hall because you
Yep.
wanted an 85 kg
85.
bell
Yep.
that you ordered, and that was part of a thing that I was helping. So you were in on that.
Yeah.
You got into hosting and doing some stuff, and for the Greenville Grab, and that's why I thought it was kind of funny too for last year's Greenville Grab, because it was Jake Fuller that ran away with the competition.
Yep.
I took second, and you took third.
Yep.
But all three of us on the podium, Jake had done some competitions before us,
Yep.
maybe 2019, or I forget when he really got his start. I'd have to ask him. But it was cool to kind of be like, oh man, that like kind of first competition that me and you did.
Mm-hmm.
Now here you are hosting a competition that has like 30 plus participants in it. It's like we're both on the podium, almost like 3 years later. Jake Fuller's still there. It's like all three of us were in a room, didn't know each other 3 years before, but
Yep.
we still stuck with it. And then, yeah, it was just a weird, not everything coming full circle, but kind of one of those moments where you're like, man, cool to see everybody still around
Yep.
and so strong and improving and hosting and doing so much with the sport. So that was a cool moment for me when you hosted that and that outcome, like I said, because that podium was literally the same, three dudes that were just kind of I hate to say no names in the first competitions, but it
Yeah.
really was. We were just learning, and
Yeah.
everybody's just progressed so much since then. And to see us lift what we did that day from, I mean, Jake on grippers, I mean, you on Saxon. I had a good run with the dumbbells that day. There was a lot
Yep.
going on. So that was a cool moment. And yeah, man, I don't know. Other than just saying it's cool, I don't have anything else to add there on that, but it was
Yeah,
good.
man. It's just you never know, dude. It's just like just on principles that you've probably talked about. It's just like, dude, just show up, man. Like a lot of these guys, and I've probably been guilty of it. Is like you gotta wait for the perfect moment. You gotta do all this stuff, dude. Just show up and compete. You don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like you showing up in Charlotte, and me showing up. It's just like you never know, and what can come from it. And if you have an interest in something, dude, chase it, man.
Yeah, and it's going to be even crazier because we're going to get into some of the more current stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because, and just like you said, just showing up. I mean, just because we were in the same room and we lifted, that's not necessarily why you started doing your strength equipment stuff that we're going to talk about. That's not necessarily why I did the grip show. We didn't even know any of that stuff was going on. We weren't predicting the future.
No.
But now that you kind of look back on it, you can say, oh yeah, we were on the same room, or that was our first competition. And it's cool to look back on. But yeah, but if one of us doesn't make that trip, how does that kind of change everything else down the line? So usually showing up regardless of the circumstances turns out to be a positive and a benefit in the long run.
Yeah.
At least from my experience.
Yep.
You usually miss out when you're not there, but if you're there, even if you don't do your best, you don't lift your best, even if it's not, you don't do anything good.
Yeah.
You meet somebody, you learn something
Yep.
happens, and then down the road it'll pay off. So that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it was very cool. I memean, even just watching your progression from that day, like you said, we stayed in touch loosely, and watching you train and stuff. Yeah, man, it's inspirational, and definitely, motivating or whatever. But yeah, it was a very cool experience that first day, and just kind of got me going into the sport. So
So now you got the Staniewicz strength equipment shirt on, right?
yeah.
That's what I'm gonna get into now a little
Yeah.
bit is so you run the baseball thing as far as you can.
Yep.
You kind of get the flame sort of relit for this strength training type stuff. You're kind of switching gears there. You're starting to realize that, okay, these competitions are going on.
Yep.
We always talk about on the show, we kind of divide it in categories sometimes, but it all carries over. It's all kind of part of the same thing.
Yep.
You read John Brookfield's book, he's talking about grippers. Oh, well, grippers are competition implements. Well,
Yep.
he's also talking about blobs. Sometimes they're competition implements. Sometimes they're just things we challenge ourselves with, so
Yep.
there's these feats of strength, there's competition. Sometimes they overlap. Like you got inch dumbbells in your competition. I consider those to be more a feat of strength type thing, but they're starting to pop up in competitions more. Any of these challenge items can be utilized in a competition.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go by like standard rolling handles, grippers, axle, those aren't really feats of strength per se. They kind of can be. I mean, closing a gripper
Yeah.
is definitely a feat of strength,
Yep.
but sometimes people will sort of divide them. But you're getting more into competing. You, like you said, had put together some stuff already on your own, created your home gym, kind of got your stuff rolling.
Mm-hmm.
What started to lead you down the path of, hey, I might try to make inch dumbbells? Obviously, there's maybe some of the increments and gaps were missing, or there was a void you were looking to fill, but for yourself, and then maybe down the road, okay, you realize, man, I can make this for other people too. But I guess what got you started from that? Okay, baseball back to the strength training. Okay, there's this grip thing. I'm competing. Now my training needs are maybe switching up a little bit.
Yeah.
How do I get these dumbbells? Or what about this block? Like, how do you get to kind of going down this equipment route?
Yeah. So ever since I was a kid, I always liked tinkering with stuff, right? And my mom always let me tinker. She was like, she's a creative person, and she was just like, hey, try it out. You know what I mean? Like I remember I was in middle school, and I lived next to a river, and we had driftwood, and I was in there with a hand planer, like this little planer, it's a little hand planer, and I whittled it down to a bat, dude. And my mom came home, and there's just this pile of wood shavings. And I'm sitting there, right? I'm sitting there like this, and I got this driftwood. And I'm just, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like some people are just, whatever. They like mechanical stuff. This is part of the story. My uncles, they're machinists, right? Did it for 40 years. So on like Thanksgiving break, I'd go visit them in Massachusetts, and they'd be making this stuff like metal chips, right? They'd be, turn stuff, making these fancy things for like GE or all these fancy companies. And they're just regular dudes, they're my uncles, later on, I'm going to go have Thanksgiving dinner with them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw them making stuff, right? And heck, when I was in high school, so I asked my uncle, I said, hey man, can we make a bat? On a lathe, on a wood lathe, on a metal lathe. So he made me a bat. And then ever since then, I was like, I want a lathe, turn stuff. I was like, I want to start making bats, but I mean, it's expensive, right? You got to buy the lathe, you got to get the wood. It's, you're not doing that, when you don't even have a garage. So that's some stuff, some crumbs, right? That's in the back of my head. And then, I do the baseball thing, committed, focus. You can't be doing this other side project stuff. And, so, I'm watching different people lifting these implements, and, I moved to South Carolina, right? So I grew up in New York, moved to South Carolina. And I think it was probably 2000, I don't know, 4 or 5. No, yeah, 2005 or 6. Anyway, I moved down to South Carolina, moved to, Union, South Carolina, not far from Greenville. Anyway, Sorinex is down there. I was familiar with Sorinex and what Richard did. And I was there, for, I don't know, for a couple months. Within the first 6 months, I was like, "Hey, Mom, can I borrow the car?" And she's like, "Yeah, what's going on?" I said, "Oh, I wanna go check out this place down in they were in Irmo at the time, right off the interstate." And she's like, "Yeah, what is it?" And so I told her. She's all right. So I go down there, and Richard and Bert are there, and they're in their office, just kicked back. He's got all this cool old school stuff there, and I walk in, and I was like, and they're like, "Oh, hey, how can I help you?" Both of them. I was like, "Oh, I mean, I was hoping to maybe lift on some of the implements and stuff. I didn't call them or nothing. I just showed up,
Just
dude.
showed up.
I showed up, man. You know what I mean? Like, people miss calls and this and that. So I just showed up, and they're like, "Yeah, what do you want to lift?" And I was like, "I just want to lift whatever you guys got. You guys got anvils, you got blobs, you got all this stuff." So it was like 2005. Yeah. So I went down there, and I'm just a nobody. I was probably like 21, and they're like, "Yeah." So this is when they had a showroom. It wasn't their facility, I believe, but it was their equipment that they put into a gym, and then they had an office there, but they didn't own the building, I believe. So they were like, not where they're at today, right? A little more. Anyway, so yeah, I got to lift on the implements and talked a little training with Richard and Bert, and Bert and Richard, they're free with their time. They weren't like, they weren't looking at their watch as they're talking to me, right? They could see the passion and the interest of what I was there for. And yeah, it was an experience, right? Like, here these guys that do awesome stuff, and I'm breathing the same air as them. I'm in the same room as them. So yeah, it's a little inspirational, right? So I do that, and I'm still playing ball. So then that was a very cool experience. And then trying to think the next segment. This is part of the inspiration.
Yeah.
And then
Well, because this stuff is going on in the background. Like you said, you're trying to kind of create stuff. You're taking the wood. You're trying to make your own bat. You're seeing this stuff from your uncles. Okay, you had this run in down at Sorinex. But you're also like, oh well, now I'm going to go play 100 games, and I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
And then So I totally get it. You're
it's in the background. It's right here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then I get done with ball, and I'm like 32. I get deployed, and I buy a crusher, and I train. You know what I mean? I'm over there at the base gym and just training because I wanted to lift the inch, because I've tried it before and failed miserably. And I got the advice from one of the best, right? Richard gave me the best advice, right? He's like, I think he shared it before, and maybe I'll share it again. You know what I mean? He said, "All right, go to the bathroom, wash your hands with warm soapy water." Have you heard this one?
Yeah, I remember on the show he talked about kind of cleaning your hands, stuff like that. I know there's a lot of people. Still nowadays, certain hosts and stuff will kind of have people, go through a process to kind of like get your hands kind of prepped before you're even messing with stuff or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know what I mean? And he gave me some good advice, and I just failed miserably. I think I might have lifted he had like a 138, and I got that. The 150, he's got a 158. I failed. And obviously 172 wasn't going anywhere. So anyway, I get deployed, I train, I get the crusher, I train. And I get home, and I got some leave or whatever. And I start looking for some bells because I want, I've been training. Let's not talk about it. Let's do it. So there's a guy in Kentucky who's selling his Selene bell. And I was like, it was a reasonable rate. I had some time, and I drove up there, and he says, "Yeah, I'll sell it." So he sold it pretty good.
Do you remember the guy's name by chance? If he had it?
Yeah, that's Stan. I might be saying his last name wrong. Selene. Stan Selene. He's bent the red now. He's a strong dude.
Yeah. He's
like a welder, truck driver. He's done some stuff. He's not in the sport right now, but he's done some stuff in the past.
Okay.
He's bent some. I think he bent a red nail in like 5 seconds. Something absurd. Anyway, he had it. He was getting rid of it. He says, "Paperweight, dude. I haven't moved it, or I don't think he's ever lifted it. I could be wrong now." So anyway, I trained for like 8 months on the crusher, and then when I came home, I had the pro dumbbell, and Anyway, I showed up and I pulled righty and lefty. It was awesome, dude.
Okay.
You know,
That's the
so
first time you lifted the inch dumbbell?
yep, that was the
Okay.
first time.
Okay.
It was pretty memorable. It was pretty cool, and his jaw kind of dropped. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, I mean
who's
it.
this guy?
Well, I mean, and like now it's easy to look back on it and almost be like, oh, that's not a big deal. But we have to remember you have to put yourself back in the shoes of that time. Like
Yeah,
when you have an object that you failed or you have an object that has never seen any air
yeah,
and you work at it and then
yep.
you even budget off the ground. It's like some of those feelings almost stick with you and it's almost more important than even some of the bigger lifts that maybe we're doing today.
Oh
It
yeah,
just stands out. It's that like
oh yeah.
that first time. So
Yep.
I totally get
The feeling.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was several different implements
yeah.
giving me problems. Yeah.
So Stan's there, and he's a mechanical guy. He's a machinist. He welds. He does a little bit of everything. So I know a little bit. I'm not a machinist. I'm not a welder. I just know a little bit. And he's got a wood dumbbell over there. I'm like, what's that, Stan? He's like, oh, I was thinking about making a pattern, make a 172. I was like, what? I was like, yeah. So I was like, okay. So I didn't think much of it. I was like, that's pretty cool. I wasn't like digging in, like, oh, what wood is that? Or, what size? I didn't dig in. I just kind of, I was like, okay, pretty cool. And then we just got to lifting other stuff. We trained a little bit. So I bought the dumbbell, I brought it home, and then, it became one of those things I would train with. And then I'm trying to think the next sequence. Might have been you, Mullins.
It could be.
Watching you lift some bells, and I was like, dude,
Oh,
he's making it look fun. You know what I mean?
oh, yeah, yeah. I think I remember the time because I think you might have reached back out to me during
Yeah.
a certain time, but I don't know if you'll remember this or how this would fit in, but
Yeah.
you had reached out to me when you got a little farther along and you were kind of like,
Yep.
I'm thinking about making dumbbells.
Yeah.
And you knew that I had like a big collection
Yep.
and you
Yep.
wanted to make different increments
Yep.
because really, I mean, Steve Slater was, from
The only guy.
whether it be Steve or through Jed, people were really just getting the standard replica.
Mhm.
And I mean, if we're being honest, just like both of us, the first time we tried it,
Yep.
it's important to have the inch dumbbell if you want to lift the inch dumbbell, but
Yep.
a lot of us don't just start there.
Yep.
Some people do, and that's awesome for them. But a
Yeah.
lot of us are more, lifting the 130s or 150s, and we
Yeah.
got work to do.
Yeah.
So one of the things you were looking at doing was kind of like, okay, I want to make these dumbbells, but I need something to gauge it off of.
Yep.
You knew that I had like a variety of increments, and you
Mm-hmm.
basically said, "Hey, take some measurements from the globes and kind of
Yep.
just so you could kind of use
Ballpark it.
those, yeah, kind of gauge what size you're going to use." So I remember you reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, just measure some of those dumbbells for me."
Yep.
I remember taking the measurements and saying like, "Hey, is this good? Is that I don't,
Yeah.
But I measured what I had and sent them to you, and you could
Yeah.
kind of gauge, your patterns or what your next step was going to
Yeah.
be."
Yeah, man. So yeah, very much appreciate those. I remember that day. And you know, so Stan was a little bit, and then, trying to think, I got that right. We got that order from Nathan, who makes great bells out there in Wales. And then I was like, dude, we need some in the States, man. Like you said,
Mhm.
no one's gonna start at 172. Let's get a variety. Like, what are we doing? So, dude, I just went down the rabbit hole, man. Yeah, I feel like you're like it too. Like you get into this thing and you just go down that rabbit hole. And I just research, right? YouTube, Google search, talk to people just to learn about foundries. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we're lucky, right? We got Google, we got all this stuff where we can research. And so I went down the rabbit hole. I researched everything and learned a bunch. And then I talked to you. And I was like, "What do you think, Mullins?" And you're like, "Dude, do it." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Let's
mean-
do it. What do you? And I was like, "All right."
Well, you also talked about like bringing the lathe back into it. You
Yeah.
talked about like you had maybe a buddy that was also
Yep.
in the baseball scene
Yep.
and made bats. And you were talking about how he had made bats, and then you were like,
Yep.
"Man, I think I'm gonna, kind of the same idea that you had seen." You're like, "I'm gonna kind of, lathe these bells to sort of
Mhm.
kind of create a pattern, and then whatever. I'm not even familiar with what steps happen after that, but
Yeah.
you were using all this stuff that we're kind of bringing together now from your background story." and it's starting to actually like, oh, this is a reality. Like you're talking
Yeah.
to foundries, you're reaching out. Maybe nothing's quite taken yet, or no one's like, yeah, we could do that, or you don't
Yeah.
have everything finalized, but you were on the way, and
Yep.
you started to kind of get these like wooden rough patterns made,
Yep.
or the step before the pattern,
Yep.
and that's when I kind of remember it going. And then I think you got in touch with maybe some of the people you're dealing with now, but you can kind of cover that however you would like. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know the
I
order
mean,
better than me.
so I called a couple foundries, like first one or two, and they're like, hey, it's gonna be 10K for the first pattern and be about
That's how
$1,000
it
for the first
is.
one.
Dude,
I was like,
I don't want to interrupt you, dude, but
oh yeah. I
I
was
mean,
like,
just
you can't
stupidest
do
stuff. I mean,
that.
I wonder how many people maybe had a similar story,
Oh
because
yeah.
I remember me and a buddy drove up to Sanford, North Carolina, because
Yep.
I was back when I was down in North Carolina
Yep.
around Southern Pines area or whatever,
Yep.
and drive up, the highway up there to Sanford, because there was a foundry that was kind of small scale, and my buddy had called him and was talking about it. He lifted with me, and I just took like my 143 bell up there, and I'm
As
like,
an
well, let's just get
example.
something a little smaller and see if I could
Yeah.
just maybe we'll start producing some of these small
Yeah.
bells or something, just for people to have, or just good working
Oh,
bells. If you can already lift the inch, it's a great working bell.
yeah.
If you can't lift the inch, it'll help you get there. Um, and same thing. I mean, I think I threw a Fat Man Blob in the back of the
Yep.
car, and the 143, drove up to Sanford, took a tour through the foundry, and it was like, yeah, hey, it's going to be, $6,000 for this, da da da. And then, this much when we pour plus, and I'm just like, probably not happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how many times you had to deal with that or go through it, but I know you put serious time in.
Yeah.
It's not like you made 2 phone calls and it's like, hey man, come on down, let's make these
Yeah.
bells.
I
You
mean, I
you did a lot.
called. I literally probably emailed or phone called. I don't know, 20 foundries,
Hmm.
and they're all like, "We ain't playing with you. You gonna order 10,000 pounds of this or whatever?" And I was like, "Oh no, it's just
Yeah.
they don't want to play ball. They want the guy, with big pockets and stuff,
Well, they're
and it
making
just
stuff. They're making stuff for the biggest commercial companies. I mean, like eh, railroad train.
yep,
I mean, like
yep,
motor vehicle.
yep,
Just
big
there.
money.
Yeah, it's different. And you're like,
Yep,
hey, we just got like 5 dudes that want to lift a dumbbell. They're
yeah,
like, get lost.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just persistent, dude. And then I found one in Rock Hill, Great Falls, South Carolina, and which isn't too far from me. And they were gonna play ball. They were decent pricing, and so I was like, okay. Anyway, and then then my buddy Jonah, who made bats locally with a lathe, I called him up. I was like, hey Jonah, can I try to make some patterns? Can I borrow your lathe? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I go over there, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm trying to make these patterns. Anyway, so I explained to him, and that whole process, and you got to figure out the size and then the spheres and all this stuff. Where the nut and bolts are, right? Because you get
Hmm.
patterns made, I mean, they're expensive. You know what I mean? Just
Hmm.
get pattern shops. I mean, I asked a couple pattern shops, and they want a couple $1,000. Like
Yeah.
$5,000 for a pattern. I'm just like, I
Yeah.
got to sell a lot
That's
of
kind of what I
numbers.
was told. Yeah.
Yeah, and then these foundries are like, they want all this money just to pour one. I was just like, anyway, so just persistence. So anyway, I got some tools, and I borrowed my buddy's lathe, and I just made some, get the handle right. And I wasn't particular on the exact weight I wanted. I just wanted some that are lighter than an inch. Let me work on those first, and
Hmm.
then go from there. So anyway, I made the first three. So I made the 110, the 125, and 138. And I made the handles too big. I made them 2 5/8. I thought they'd shrink more. They didn't shrink. So back to the drawing board, Mr. Stanowitz, and I couldn't put it back on the lathe, so I had to
Hmm.
improvise and adjust the handles to just a little over 2 3/8. So that kind of sucked, but
Hmm.
I ended up getting those right, and I ended up switching foundries. I ended up getting with another foundry in just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, and they've been great. I've been with him, pretty much since the beginning here, and sent all the patterns up there, and they've been making all the bells and stuff. So anyway, so I got that going, and then I work over at with an aerospace company. There's a lot of engineers around, so I had the three patterns for that, and then I'm around a lot of engineers, and I was like, "What about blobs?" Anyway, so blobs, right? You know more than anybody. It's particular. You want the perfect slope, perfect width, all this stuff, right? And I don't have those skills on the lathe. I'm just a guy. I can do the handle, which is just very simple.
Yeah.
So I start talking to guys. I'm like, 3D print. What about 3D print? So I get in touch with a mechanic. I worked with him a couple of years, and then I say, "Hey, Bobby, you heard you're a 3D printer?" And he's like, "Yeah, I print." And so I got working with him a little bit. Let me back up a little bit.
Oh, you're good. Like I said, you're at whatever pace or however you want to do it.
So another call out. I mean, I didn't do this all myself. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I had help with people. Like, I had help with you. I had inspiration from all these other people. And what's his name? So my buddy Bobby at work, and then trying to think, the 3D print route. So Delmar Carter had had some plates up that he 3D printed that simulated the globes of a bell, and I was like, "That's pretty cool." So I reached out to Delmar, and I was like, "Hey, man, you 3D print?" And he's like, "Yeah." So he printed some plates for me. They're not ready yet. Still working on it. Takes time. And he made some globe plates for me, and then I worked with him on the 53 blob. I got all, because I had a fat man, and I got all the dimensions. I sent it to him. I worked with him, and he was the guy that printed the first 3D print for me for the Fat Man replica. So I got that going, and then like I said, I got with my buddy Bobby at work, and he's been 3D printing some other stuff. Like, he did the 47, he did the anvil, and what else did he do? Did some plates. I'm a work in progress. I'm not done. I got a bunch of other stuff that I'm working on. But those are some of the guys that helped out. Like Delmar, awesome dude. Shout out to Delmar, getting me going with some of that 3D print stuff. And the foundries don't like 3D prints, at least the one I work with. So I had to do a lot of alter, to make them compatible, right? And that's part of the learning curve. You got to spend time, money, make mistakes, because I'm paying these guys for the stuff. So so Delmar did the 53. Bobby has been doing a lot of prints for me, and that's some of that stuff. And then my buddy Jonah, I want to make some more bells, right? And my buddy Jonah, he got rid of his lathe, so I was like, all right, I understand. So I ended up buying a lathe a couple weeks ago, and now I got a ton of lumber here now, just making blanks, prep work.
Okay. Yeah.
I got a list, just trying to fill it out, and figure out all the formulas and stuff for the weights and stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I'll just give me a second. I got some props here, Mullins.
No, yeah, for sure. And like I said, we'll kind of talk about what you have already created, and then we can kind of talk about
too many of my trade secrets.
No, you're good.
Stuff. It's been done for thousands of years, so it's not that of a secret. But you got your wood. Start out here, right? And then you got this is a work in progress. Here's one. There's gonna be a 100-pounder. It's not done, right? It's a work in progress. You get your ends, turn on the lathe, and you got to turn spheres and all that stuff. All the formulas to figure out how big it needs to be that I've worked through, right? Because I've made mistakes and they're not cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, hey man, it came out too big. But yeah, you're gonna have to pay us for that belt. I was like, all right, you know what I mean? So it's all this investing and time and everything, and it costs time to learn this stuff. So
that's a big reason that I don't think we had other options. Yeah, I mean, it's like what's a lot of these businesses or even big companies, I don't think want to fool with it because it's kind of so tedious, and there's Not really. I mean, especially early on, there's not a lot, there's no money in it. It's like, how are you going to pour these expensive bells?
Yeah.
And then what, you're going to turn around and sell them for what? There's
Yeah.
like, for most companies, you think, well, how come a fitness company hasn't done this? It's like,
Yeah.
'cause they're not going to make any money, or they
Yep.
don't want to go through the trouble that you've went through. So,
Yep.
yeah, man, it's definitely kind of a wild process, especially. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but the way you've done it and made things work has been great. So, real quick, you've had several batches of you have two different blobs, right?
Yep. 4753.
Okay. And then am I crazy, or have I seen a 48 before? Like with the
So math
okay.
was wrong. Adjusted the label.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I got you. Um, and then for your dumbbells,
Yep.
what size of dumbbells have you got? I guess, all right, I guess I should just ask you through the products you've been making. I know you
Yep.
have things that are still being worked on and you have
Yep.
different things you're going to add. For Staniewicz strength equipment right now, what
Hmm.
do you have that someone could buy, or what do you have that's already been given out to people or been utilized?
Yep. So I got a 110, a 125, a 138,
That's
and
for
a
inch bells.
inch bell and a
Inch bell.
so 172 it's been coming out at like 170.
Hmm.
So I got a new pattern, right? So
Hmm.
I've had ones 169.1, I've had 172.2. So I got another pattern coming out to be more 171.5 plus to
Hmm.
175, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
you know,
just to ensure that it's the actual replica weight or
yeah.
higher.
I mean, if you
Gotcha.
pull a 170 point, 170, you pull it easy, you pull on 172. If it's
Hmm.
tough, you might not pull 172. So I want to get it right. So that's something I'm working on. But so that's a price, right? I had to pay. I
Hmm.
had to pay the pattern shop to mount it. I had to pay all this stuff, and it costs time and money, and make a new pattern and stuff. So I got a new one out there, and just waiting on the pattern shop to mount it and get it ready to pour. So the pattern's made, but the things that it attaches to, I don't do. The pattern shop does, and
Hmm.
just kind of wait on them because I'm not the only customer, and it just takes time. You know what I mean, for them to work. So yeah, and then what's coming down the road? I'm just gonna fill in the gaps, dude. I'm gonna do. I already got a 200-pound pattern at the foundry. I do 215, 230. A millennial, whatever you want to call it. And
Millennium. We can't say millennial.
we have millennium,
Yeah,
and
if
then
it's something millennial, we can't be putting that out. That'd be a weak dumbbell. No, I'm just
I
messing around.
know
But yeah,
and
I'm
getting
just messing
smaller, right? Like what I'd like to do because
around.
we had the farmers walk. We're gonna do. I think we're gonna do 25, 50, 75, 100 for women's.
Hmm. Hmm.
Already got working on those patterns.
Okay. Yeah.
Filling in the gaps, man. It's just time. I'm a moonlighter. This is my full time gig. I work
Yeah.
9 to 5. I got a house. I'm renovating, and this is like a passion project.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's easy to work on. You know what I mean? Because I enjoy it, right? I enjoy woodworking. I enjoy working on the lathe, putting it together, thinking about it, the whole engineering side of it, and the math and formulas and stuff. And yeah, I want to train with it. And then, I mean, I got all my bells right here. Actually, I only have one of my bells. It's not even mine. I've been just giving it out, selling them because, keep grease the groove, right? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You know, lathe and all this stuff, a couple $1,000, and then the time. So I don't even own any of my bells right now. I got one my buddy lent me for an event
Okay.
we just had, but yeah, it's fun. I love training with them. Um, but yeah, so that's the dumbbell pattern. Um, and then I got some of the 3D prep. These are prototypes. They weren't right. Throw them away. Keep paying for them. Trying to make some other stuff. Here's an anvil pattern.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say because Fat Bastard Barbell Company used to have like the
Yep.
Legends Anvil,
Yep.
and then that kind of got discontinued, and for whatever reason, people were really wanting that to kind of come back. You kind of took the same approach of, yes, Little Bighorn's awesome. Yeah, the Rogue
Yep.
Anvil's cool. I like both pieces.
Yep.
But they're basically just like ice cream cone, perfect taper,
Yep.
kind of shapes. Just machine steel in a straight taper. Whereas a lot of anvil heads are not that way. They have a bigger scoop. They're flatter on one side. So you took basically a casting of a legitimate anvil head.
I got you. Stand by.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
So this is a good story. This is the anvil.
Okay.
The horn I copied.
All right.
So I'm at work. Anvils ain't cheap, dude.
No, they're
At
not.
work.
I've been down that route as well with trying to
Yeah.
buy them, and you get the craziest looks too because it's usually like some blacksmith person that's
Yeah.
selling it to you.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh yeah, what kind of stuff you gonna make?" And I'm like, "I'm just gonna pick it up by the horn." And they're
Yeah.
like, "What? Like, are you crazy? Like, are you mentally ill?" Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just gonna lift it. You know?
So this is a good story. I'm at work and there's this maintenance guy walking by and he's got an anvil right here, tattooed
Okay.
right here. I'm like, that's my dude. So I'm like, hey man, you blacksmith? Said, yeah, blacksmith. I was like, cool. I said, how do we get an anvil? What's going on? Why is so much? Do you know anybody? What's the deal? And he's like, what are you gonna, just like you said, what are you gonna do with it? He was familiar with it. He knows a little history. He was like, yeah, I know about anvil lifting by the horn. That's pretty cool. And I don't think he knew who George Jowett was, but he had an idea.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, we kind of knew each other back and forth for a little bit. And he's like, I got an anvil. I was like, okay, how much? Or, how big? And he's like, it's around 100 pounds. I was like, all right. And he gave it to me for a really good deal. But he said to me, he says, listen, he said, I'll only sell it to you under one condition. You don't make it lawn art because apparently Martha Stewart, I don't know this if you know the story, Martha Stewart, he told me she's to blame for these outrageous prices because she made it lawn art and made it cool. And then like ever since then, prices have gone up. You can look it up, but
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. But is that kind of like these people that I don't say these people, but like, is that kind of like people that kind of have like a wheelbarrow out front with the
Yep.
wagon wheels, or
Yep.
you just certain stuff that's like, oh, it's more like lawn art and like maybe like a farmhouse. Oh, we got the anvil out there next to the flower bed, or so. I don't know. I'm just saying, like I kind of understand. I think what you mean, but
yeah. He's like he's like, damn Martha Stewart, because you jacked the prices up. She messed it up for everybody. That's what he said. And don't make it lawn art. And if you do want to get rid of it, you talk to me first. I was like, deal. So I still have it. I'm not getting rid of it. I still
and not that it's everybody, but that's pretty standard in the grip world.
Yeah.
When we sell these rare pieces to other people, it's kind of like, hey man, I got no problem with selling it to you, but don't go selling it to some random person or just tossing it aside.
Yep.
Like,
respect
if you're gonna get rid of it, like hit me up, maybe I'll buy it back, or we'll, there's almost like, I don't say an unspoken rule there, but it's kind of a pact between buyer seller in our world that you don't necessarily see with other things. And at the end of the day, when you sell something, people can do whatever they want with it. It's theirs. But there is that kind of courtesy, I think, in our community where when we have these rare things that we do appreciate, it's nice if you at least kind of check in like, hey, I was thinking about selling that blob you gave me. You want it back? I'm going to give you first crack at it. And if you're like, nah, I don't want it, give it to whoever. Okay, cool. But you kind of get not permission, but it's almost a courtesy thing sometimes.
It's good, man. It's a good code. I like it. So yeah, very cool. It was I was very fortunate. Even the fat man I make copies now, so you have to cut them up, but I got it at Play Again for dirt cheap. I don't think they knew what they had.
No, they could have retired if they really knew.
I know.
I'm just messing around. I always joke about that.
But anyway, what I'm going at is like I'm fortunate. I have all these different circumstances. You know what I mean? Like inspiration. Here's another story. Inspirational story is so I moved to South Carolina. I don't know if you're familiar with PDA, Piedmont Design Associates. Have you heard of them?
No, but I think recently in the blob episode I think Jed brought up them having a like loadable blob or a shot loadable type
Blobette.
Yeah,
I believe it's called.
Yeah, so that's where I first heard the PDA thing was actually in a recent episode I just did. Is the first time I even knew about that. So yeah.
So here I am. I moved to South Carolina, and I had some of their stuff. And I'll grab something real quick because
No, you're good.
pretty
Yeah, like
cool.
any display helps. I mean, and we're kind of going on the fly too, so it's not like we planned everything
I
out,
don't
right?
think he gets enough credit either. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
This guy, his name's John. John, it's a his last name's a Polish name, for, kind of appropriate. Anyway, so I moved to South Carolina, and I'm still messing around with it on the sidelines, and I look him up. I call him. I was like, hey, John, you know, because he's in South Carolina.
Mhm.
And he's not too far. He's like 45 minutes away. And I call him up, and he's like, and I was like, hey man, I'd like to check out some of your equipment. He's like, yeah. So anyway, so he says, yeah, you come meet me. So I met him at his house. He's he worked at his house, and he had a bunch of his stuff there. And so, just a normal guy, you know what I mean? Just a regular house, nothing crazy. And here he is making stuff and selling, like, it's premium stuff. It's like,
Mhm.
he's an engineer. He's wicked smart, you know what I mean? And he designs stuff. And here I see how he's working, right? And so as part, it's kind of, I met him. He's doing it, man. It's part of my inspiration. But anyway, I bought this. I don't know. It's been on. People have seen it, but so from my understanding, he's the first guy that did it. So Ivanko, right? The Ivanko Super Gripper, right? Great.
Mhm.
It's adjustable, all these different
Yeah.
levels, and
I know also because I think I messed up in one past episode and I
yeah,
confused the Ivanko with the Vulcan, which I think are
yeah,
different, but they're like the same design kind of. But I know David Horn had one, but and I
yep,
know David Horn is like an OG of grip, so it's
oh
like
yeah,
I don't know when he did his, made his, or what that story is. Maybe someday in the future we'll hear it
yeah,
from him. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know the timelines on any of that stuff. I just know that that's what I think of with that style of gripper.
yeah.
Is those things come to my mind.
Yeah. So he took the Ivanko, and what he did is he machined a slot. You probably can't see it there. He machined a slot in there,
Yeah.
and then because he made grippers.
Hmm.
He's like one of the, like, Warren made a bunch of grippers, but he's like the engineering guy that he didn't develop RGC, but he started going down that rabbit hole. I don't know. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't know this. But anyway, so he's making grippers. So he had some aluminum grippers that he made a slot in, and then epoxied them onto an Ivanko. So it was more like a actual torsion spring gripper in terms of the knurling instead of
Hmm.
just the hammered paint.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is something I bought off of him, and I think it's awesome. You
No,
know,
it's a cool design. I haven't seen anything like
yeah.
that. So
And not a lot of I feel like giving him credit because, yeah, not a lot of people talking to him. Like, I sent Matt some information, Matt Cannon, some of his, because I bought one of his grippers, and he had like this little PDF file about, he passed away, and one of these PDF files about some of the rudimentary measuring, how to measure the clothes.
yeah.
I can't remember exactly. He had it like a beefy thing that would close it, not with the strap and that kind of.
Yeah.
So it was different, but it was going down that rabbit
Hmm.
hole. So anyway, pretty cool meeting him. But he's, you know what I mean? Here I am breathing the same air, shaking his hand. This is part of my inspiration that kind of got me going with some of this stuff, right?
Hmm.
I'm not a self-made man. I'm just people have inspired me and coached me and given me ideas and just kind of build off of it. But yeah, so that was John from Piedmont Design Associates. And then anyway, I ended up moving, and I was like, maybe 8 years later, I moved, and I was like, this place is familiar. After I moved in, I was like, why do I know this place? And I was like, that's where John's from. John lived like where I moved to the new place. He was like
Yeah.
literally 100 yards away. Anyway, really
Oh
weird.
wow.
That's
Yeah.
really weird. But
Yeah,
anyway,
where you kind of forget about it, but then you're back there and you're like, wait a
yeah,
minute, why is this familiar? Why do I know where? I
yeah,
feel like I've been here before.
pretty strange.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I mean, some of these guys, I'm rubbing elbows with Richard Soren and John
Yeah.
and
It's a lot of there's just it might be like small little like
tidbits.
blips over time, but man, it kind of is added up, and then you see where it's at now. I
Yeah,
mean, and I think a lot of these, and this is just my opinion, but I think there's a lot of these people that I mean, I don't know. If you were to tell Richard back in the day that in 2025 people would still be trying to make blob replicas and maybe blobs were more expensive and more
Yeah.
sought after than ever, or people were training them maybe more than
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
they might not believe you, or they
Yeah.
might not believe where it's gone. But
Yeah.
it takes people like I kind of mentioned Jed in the Blob episode, almost kind of being next after Richard and carrying that torch, and then
Oh yeah.
so with some of this stuff, I think a lot of these people that we're mentioning, or the people that maybe invented things, created it, or started it, or they were the beginning of that evolution. I think it would probably blow their minds if they could see where some of the stuff is at today, or
Yeah.
if they are still living, they're probably like, oh my God, I can't believe, 30, 40 years later that people care this much about it.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see. And like I said, I mean, like I said, it's hard to accept praise or, compliments sometimes, but there hasn't been any smaller inch dumbbells for sale since, I mean, Selaney stopped, and that was, it's a nightmare trying to even get any of that. There's people that still didn't get bells that
Yeah.
ordered them in that whole whatever situation.
Yep.
I myself, I mean, I had to wait over 2 years and get into some stuff there just to even get a couple dumbbells and
Yeah.
whatever. But but yeah, and then like I said, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of trashing Selaney or that whole thing, whatever.
Yeah.
But those days of, hey, let me just place an order for that, those are long gone, and that's not a
Yeah.
thing really.
Yep.
So you've stepped in and basically filled a void through all these experiences we're talking about. You filled that
Yep.
void. You've put in, the mistakes of messing patterns up,
Oh
thousands
yeah.
of dollars out of pocket to screw this up or have to recorrect something,
Yep.
to traveling to the Arnold to have this stuff for sale on display.
Yep.
You were just at Summer Strong and Sorinex with
Yep.
demos and bringing your stuff forward. So, yeah, it's just you're starting. I shouldn't say starting. You are a piece of that history at some point, because how many times did a lot of us look for, hey, well, where can I find a baby inch or a lighter dumbbell, or where can we
Yeah.
get a blob replica, because blob 50s weren't made anymore, and they just recently got kind of rebooted from the old mold, got back in the hands of, Matt Cannon on the grip board, and
Yeah.
he's producing blob
Awesome.
50s again from
I know.
that old thing.
Love it.
But that was gone for who knows how long, and so yeah, it's just a lot of this stuff was real scarce and it was hard to get. And having somebody in the US that is producing this equipment for people in our sport to train on, that's unique, that can't be found anywhere else, it's a big gap that
Yeah.
maybe you don't feel like you've fully filled it,
Not
because
yet.
you're still doing more stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
But the initial stages of having, three different increments of inch bells, a fat man replica and a smaller blob replica that people can train on to get up to that,
Yep.
an anvil handle that was cast from a legitimate anvil with the true
Yep.
shape,
Yep.
that also attaches to a loading pin with three different mechanisms. So you have
Yep.
your regular threaded eye bolt like a
Yep.
little bighorn or rogue anvil.
Yep.
You have the same style connection but with a swivel on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have the fixed pin,
Mhm.
which kind of puts the anvil handle at the
Yep.
proper angle of a real anvil.
Yep.
Typically not a straight vertical lift. The anvil usually has that back end on the face of the
Yep.
anvil that has it at a certain degree angle. So you took the time to fix all those details, and this is kind of, these are the products you've made, and you're
Mhm.
still expanding on them, and there's probably going to be an evolution to that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm just giving you the credit also, because I mean you're paying your respects to everybody that helped you along the way, but then here you are like, okay, well now you kind of are carrying a torch of some sort in some capacity, that it's happening in real time. So maybe we don't really know what that looks like 5, 10 years from now, but
Yeah.
somebody 10 years from now, 20 years from now is going to have a bell that says SSE on it somewhere in the garage lifting it. There's something there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's a place in history that
Yeah.
even if it's a small grip world and whatever, or if it blows up and becomes a huge sport, whatever, but it's
Yep.
there, it's happening, it's done, and you did what was needed and put in the miles and the
Yeah.
hours. So, man, I think it's cool. Is there anything else that you would kind of like to go into as far as some of the stuff you've made, or maybe what you're kind of working on? I know you mentioned a heavier dumbbells,
Yeah.
possibly a heavier blob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I got some other ideas. I don't know.
But you don't
Oh,
have to.
here I'll give you a. I'll
It's
give you
behind
a
the
hint.
scenes too. You
I'll
don't have
give
to
you a
like
hint.
spill it.
I'll give you a hint. I mean, so I went to the Stark Center, awesome place out
Mhm.
in Austin, Texas. Work sent me out in the area, so they got all the OG stuff there.
Mhm.
They got the Jow and Anvil. They got all the barbells. They you got some guys like Herman Gorner.
Mhm. Yep.
You had some cool stuff you lifted on.
Okay.
See,
I
maybe
gotcha.
maybe it'll come back out. Maybe we'll resurrect it. You
Okay. No, man. I think that's good. Good
It's fun,
teaser for
right?
people. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we'll just say leave it at that. Maybe we'll resurrect that.
okay.
Got some inspiration. I mean, it's not available. People, we'll see. Um, yeah, I got some ideas. They're like I said, I'm just building off what other people have done. Some of it, you know what I mean? Like I want to pay respect. I like the connection, right? I think like the Saxon bar, Arthur Saxon with a 3-inch oak plank. That's awesome. I like paying homage to some of these guys and tying them back together, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think that's important. So yeah, I don't know something about it. The anvil, right? It's just a long history. Right. I was like, when I was designing my shirt, I think I wanted something that was like, okay, there's the anvil guy.
Yeah.
I wanted that tie. So, yeah, man, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel fortunate. I'm in a spot where I can do this. I have some time to do it. And I'm grateful for all the support, everybody. And I know it's not cheap. You know what I mean? I'm not sending to China. It's not 50 cents a pound. It's all made in America, designed in America. Everything's pretty much American here. And I just want to say I appreciate everybody's support. Everyone's been super encouraging and with everything and understanding, because I'm a moonlighter and the pattern shop and the foundry, I'm not their only customer. So sometimes it might
Mhm.
take, usually there's about a 2-week from order to when it's at your front door. Sometimes it takes 3. So everybody's been super supportive and understanding. So um, super grateful on that. And, everybody's support, like your support, I'm grateful for. And, there hasn't been any malice or anything. So very fortunate. And but yeah, man, I'm super excited, man. Passionate about this. I want the stuff. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see where this goes. You know what I mean? Seeing all these
Mhm.
different feats. I mean, I just sent some anvils out to Tasmania. I didn't even know
Oh,
how to
okay.
spell it. I had to look it up.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember the Tasmanian devil. Anyway, it's kind of cool. You know what I mean? I never
Well, it's,
thought.
it's interesting to have your stuff across the world. And
Yeah,
although I mean I'm not trying to like step into the what would you say the equipment space
yeah,
where you're producing something different.
yeah,
But I have banners that are like different places all over the world. And I'm kind of
yeah.
like weird. Oh, that's weird. Like I have grip show banners, in places that like I
It's
never
pretty
thought.
cool.
Yeah. So you just meet a lot of people through this stuff.
Yeah,
With with that stuff being said, and kind of
yeah,
talking about you being thankful for the support and everything that's going on with the stuff you're making.
yeah,
I think everybody else is also thankful that you're for what you've done and kind of the effort that you've put in. I think that's why everything's been so positive
yeah,
is because it's genuine, it's legit,
yeah,
and you're just doing a lot of groundwork that many aren't willing to do.
yeah,
And the one thing I do want to finish up with, at least though, is if someone needs to get a hold of you right now, or if someone is interested in this stuff, what is the best way to get a hold of you, contact you, or where can they kind of follow you for social, media type stuff? Just to
yeah.
put that out
So
there. That way they're not like,
yeah,
man, I listened to
no.
that, but how do I reach that guy?
So I made a rudimentary website. I'm not a web designer. I'm a moonlighter. So if you just type in, I'm still working on it, so I have to write my name on my shirt.
Okay.
But you just type that in .com. You can find
Yeah.
my website, which it's got some FAQs, some general information about the different products I have available. Or you can find me on Instagram, same thing, Staniewicz Strength Equipment, or Facebook. It's pretty easy with social
Okay.
media.
Yeah, and for some of those links, I'll put the link in the
Yeah,
description below for the episode,
yeah,
with other stuff down there.
yeah.
So
Before I get ahead of myself, another thing, like, I'm married, and um, another thing, just grateful. My wife super supportive, Alexis, of what I'm doing. So I'm very grateful for her. And because, you know, sometimes she's like, you're doing what? You know, I spent some time doing this, and I got a house that needs some work. So for her
Yeah.
patience, you know what I mean?
No, no, yeah, because
I'm
you could
super
be fixing
grateful.
something in your own house, but you're out there turning a dumbbell pattern
I
for
know.
4 hours, and it's like, what are you doing?
I know. And then, you
So,
know, also
yeah.
grateful, you know, it's important for this, you know, for like my brother, you know, he's another support system. He's encouraging, and then my mom, super supportive, you know what I mean, through all this
Mhm.
stuff. I think it's
Yeah.
important. You know, some people are like, oh, I'm a self-made man. Nah, you see a turtle
No,
on a
nobody
fence.
helped them ever.
Yeah. You see a turtle on a fence post. Homeboy didn't get there by himself. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I just want to make sure that's delivered or whatever.
Yeah. No, man, I think throughout the episode and in general, every interaction I've had, I mean, it's you've never come off egotistical or act like you did on you've always been very quick to mention other people, and like we've done throughout this whole episode, you've
Yeah.
talked about how many people and moments have kind of impacted where you're at now. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's noticeable.
Yeah, man. I think it's important. What other kind of messages? That's it, man. I mean, I got a lot of some of the skills. I don't have all the information. If you guys have any ideas you want to see in fruition,
Yeah,
message,
reach out. Yeah.
reach out, man. We'll work
Yeah,
together.
and if anybody wants to comment below this episode or reach out to you directly, um, like I said, I mean, you could kind of check out the comments. If anybody's asking questions, you could be in there talking to them directly, or like I said, they could
Yeah.
always reach out to you through the methods we brought up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like you've mentioned numerous times. A lot of these people that are building this stuff, I mean, it's like I'm not in some like billion-dollar headquarters hanging out and I'm
Yeah.
unreachable. Like if you message me or Zach, you will get a response, and
Yeah.
it's like you mentioned these other people. It's regular dudes that are just like down to earth and helping you out. Like it's
Yeah.
not there's not
I'm
like
not
some process where you have to
yeah.
email and wait a week or something.
I'm not like, hey, honey, go fuel up the corporate jet. Yeah, I'll be right there. Like, no, dude, I'm a normal guy, works 9 to 5, that likes lifting, and
Yeah.
has a passion for it. So yeah, just reach out to me, and I'll get back to you.
All right, man. Hey, Zach, thanks for doing this episode, and I look forward to some of the stuff you're coming out with because, like I said, I need some new challenges and some stuff I want to lift too that you're making. So I'm looking forward to some of these things. And if anybody else has questions, hit me or Zach up, comment below, go to the Instagram pages he has, Facebook, whatever. Doesn't matter. Reach out, ask the questions, or get the stuff, and yeah, you'll be directly talking to Zach himself. And it's not like he has 50 employees doing all the groundwork. He's the guy doing this thing right now. So if you're interested, reach out to him. And any other questions, yeah, just reach out to all of us and get you on the right path. So Zach, thanks again for stopping by.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, wish you the best with the rest of these projects.
Thanks, man.
And
Appreciate
hope the
it.
Greenville Grab goes well too.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
we got that. If you still want to sign up, July 19th,
Mhm.
2025, Malden, South Carolina. Just message me.
All right. Any last words? Are you good there?
No, man.
Good to go.
Appreciate time. Well, I appreciate what you're doing, man. I know a lot of your work probably, you know, you put a lot of time into this, and you've
Mhm.
kind of put a lot of energy into it, and makes it exciting, and a lot of this information is out in the open. It's not hidden in some scroll in somebody's, you know, closet. So I appreciate you putting this together,
Yeah.
and everyone's getting better for it, you know, like the knowledge that you're getting to people. It's awesome, dude, and very encouraging.
Okay. Well, thanks, Zach. And like I said, same to you for the stuff you're doing. So yeah, we're all just kind of playing our part and trying to help out,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. That's it.
But yep, that'll be it, man. I'll wrap up there. Thanks again.
Awesome, dude.